a content series on North Africa, this time focused on Morocco. My name is Intisar Fakir. I am a senior fellow and the director of the North Africa and Sahel program at the Middle East Institute in Washington. It's a pleasure to have you all joining us today. Thank you for taking the time. Before I introduce the session and explain a little bit more about the series, I wanted to say just a quick word about how this collaboration and this entire concept came about. We kicked off this cooperation with NAPI, the North Africa Policy Initiative, back in 2021, with the first series that we did on Libya, followed the past year with another series of webinars that we did on Tunisia. And this year we are going to look at Morocco, and I'll say a little bit more about that in a moment. But I just wanted to highlight that this is the sort of work that I have been passionate about my entire career, creating avenues for a multitude of voices and providing room for those with the same passion to share their insights, especially a rising generation from the region, a generation of civic actors and leaders. And I'm really delighted to have the opportunity to work with this impressive network of people. I always learn a great deal, as I hope you will as well, for if you are just joining us for the season, for this series. And I really have the opportunity to sort of use our platform to provide room for these voices to join conversation, and hopefully eventually to also shape these conversations and to help us understand these issues more comprehensively, think about them differently, and hopefully walk away with something that we hadn't considered before. So with that, I am grateful to NAPI for their partnership and for the chance to together amplify and provide a platform for these talented new voices. So this is the series, and this time we are going to be focused on Morocco. Each webinar will bring us a discussion of key issues, from the wide range of governance challenges to some of the bright spots and how these can be nurtured. This will be a series of monthly webinars featuring about 3 to 4 speakers each, usually moderated either by someone from our team or from the NAPI team, with plenty of room for discussion afterwards. And as we look at Morocco in the same detail that we did when we looked at Tunisia last year and Libya before that, my aim is to spotlight the interesting dynamics of the Maghreb and North Africa region. We will see parallels, we will see some major divergences, and above all, I think we will see the complexity that makes North Africa a really compelling area to study. So with that, I hope you will enjoy this discussion. Please stay tuned for future ones, and please be sure to check out our website for the previous series. And let me hand it over to my colleague Shiraz Larbi from NAPI. Just a very brief introduction of Shiraz. She is a Tunisian civil society activist and development practitioner. She specializes in parliamentary strengthening and decentralization, where she has supported post-2011 parliaments and municipal councils for more transparency, participation, and accountability. So thank you to all. And Shiraz, I will hand it over to you.
Thank you, Intisar, and thank you for joining us in today's conversation on youth participation in political life in Morocco. As Intisar said, my name is Shiraz Arbi. I'm a member of the North African Policy Initiative, which is an independent, non-profit, and non-partisan NGO based in Tunis, but covers the whole North African region. NAPI works on strengthening democratic governance and social cohesion through civic participation and engagement, and it does this through research, training of youth, program design, management, and MEI to international cooperation and development organizations. So it is my pleasure to host our first discussion in this Moroccan series. As Intisar has pointed out, we have already conducted 2 successful series on Tunisia and Libya in partnership with MEI. So I'm very pleased to launch this series. So to discuss today's topics, I'm joined by very brilliant young activists from Morocco. So our first speaker is Omar Assou, who is a civil society activist. He's the executive director of the Association Jeune Tamdoult. and a consultant for Moroccan CSOs with over 15 years of experience, and a former MEPI Leaders for Democracy Fellowship in 2012 at AUB Beirut, as well as 2015 American Council of Young Political Leaders Fellow. The second speaker is on screen with us today is Shaima Bourjij, who is currently the project coordinator for the Friedrich Naumann Foundation for Freedom in Morocco. She's also the founding president of the International Youth Council, Morocco chapter, and previously she co-founded the Youth Association for Sustainable Development, which was elected as the 2018 SDG mobilizer by the UN Campaign for SDG Action. She's the MENA ambassador for the She Decides and a leader of the movement at the local level since 2018. The third speaker is Issam Okoro, who is a social activist, and he's currently the executive director of the AFCD Foundation, which is an organization that promotes democracy and youth participation in community development. And for Issam, all his activism and work is based on his conviction that youth are a catalyst for transformative development in all areas, and that it is time for youth to take the lead. So welcome all of you. And actually, let me start by framing today's topic. So Morocco is a very young country, and those under 25 years of old represent 43% of the Moroccan population, which is almost half of the population. So the role of youth is central to all Moroccan societies and the life. And that's what we'll be discussing today is the extent to which young people in Morocco are given the space and the necessary tools and mechanisms to effectively contribute to the decision-making process at the national and local levels so that public policies will reflect specific needs and demands. And also we'll try to discuss if youth are adapting using different and new forms of engagement in public life. So the webinar format will be the following. We'll have 2 rounds of questions, and then we will open discussion to our audience. So for our audience who are following us, please use the Q&A function to propose your questions. With that, I will start the first round of questions. So I want to start with a very important general question, which is to all of you. Do you think that youth participation and engagement in civil and political life, and more generally in public life, is increasing or decreasing in Morocco? And what are the reasons? So I'd like to give the floor to Issam, and we will try to answer the question using, we can approach it from different angles. So for Issam, you can maybe respond, but also speak a little bit about the operating environment. To what degree encourages youth participation and gives them space and opportunity to engage, since you have also expertise in OGP, which is an international platform that connects the government, the national government, with civil society and citizens for more participatory governments. So Issam, over to you.
Thank you so much, Shiraz. Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity, and congratulations for the great work you are doing. And as Shiraz already appointed the question, and if the participation and the engagement in the civic and political life of the Moroccan youth is it increasing, or what is the situation? I mean, personally, I strongly believe that the youth participation is really increasing, and in the whole MENA region, but Morocco actually is not an exception. I've been aware that you already tackled Libya and Tunisia as a case study, but Morocco is not that different. I mean, since the last adjustment of the Moroccan constitution in 2011, I think that Morocco and the youth of Morocco has more presence in the Moroccan policy making arena, and then the public life and all the governance. I mean, the governance in general. I mean, I think that the youth has a presence starting from the ratification of the constitution. in order and towards a public governance for effective and inclusive youth engagement. And this can be shown and it can be seen in two articles, the article 33, and I think that Omar and Shaima are aware of the ratifications, the article 33, and I quote that the article is responsible for making the people in power or decision makers are responsible for engaging youth and in both, I mean, in social and economical, cultural and political life in the country, and they are also responsible to aid them. Sorry, they are responsible to give them the necessary aid in order to be active in the public life. And another place and or another set where it is seen that the youth participation is needed is in the Article 270 in the constitutions, where a consultative youth council and associative action has been established in Morocco. And this in both two articles, I mean, as I said, in these both articles, that the Moroccan youth are very engaged in the public life. Again, another aspect by which we can measure and see that the Moroccan youth are engaged is that by the Morocco has joined the OGP, the Open Government Initiative, in 2018. Actually, Morocco joined in 2018, but it showed interest in joining the OGP in 2011, actually just 1 year after the ratification of the constitution. But the legal framework was not actually compatible with the OGP values. I mean, we know that the OGP values worldwide covers four main aspects: budget transparency, access to information, and the general declaration of the properties of the elected public officials. And the fourth one, which interests us the most, is the civic participation in the government actions. What I can say is that the OGP in Morocco, for the time being, and consists of two committees: the supervisory committee, and this consists of various government departments, and the civil society organizations. This committee shows exactly that youth are engaged, and they are doing their role as a consultant, and they are engaged in the public life. And the other committee is the implementation committee, which consists of the head of project of the action plans.
Thank you, Assam. Maybe I will turn to Omar. I was wondering if Omar, if you agree with Assam saying that youth participation and engagement in public life is increasing. And maybe also drawing on your experience in civil society, maybe talk a little bit about the role of civil society in encouraging or discouraging youth activism in public life.
Thank you, Shiraz. Firstly, I would like to thank NAPI and the Middle East Institute for the opportunity and for being with you today and talking about the youth participation or youth in public life in Morocco. I totally agree with Assam because as you may know, in Morocco we have a very large number of associations. Like the last number that was communicated by the spokesman of the government, we have in Morocco more than 210,000 associations, and it's a huge number of associations comparing to the we are still under the average. For instance, in France the average is very high, but in Morocco, like to have like more than 200,000 associations is a quite interesting number. And we know that the youth of Morocco are very engaged in the civic life more than in political life. And it's very seen in the number of the associations and the initiatives and actions that the youth in Morocco are leading. Like Isam and Shima is an example of that. And yes, and that came from the legal framework of establishing an association in Morocco. It's really easy in Morocco, like to create an association. In Morocco, as in the law of association, in associations stipulates in its first article that the association is an organization that two people or more who want to join their efforts and resources for the benefit of their community without seeking any profit. So like two people can create associations, and we have a lot of associations now that are created by 2 to 3 people. Like the common now is 3, 5. We tend to go with ampere numbers if when we talk about the people in our board of directors. So it's like this made it easy for a lot of people to create their own associations. And we benefited from that legal framework, because we started our own association back in 2008, and we were still very young, and we benefited from the legal framework, and we established, for instance, our association. But it's very increasing. As I said, we have a lot of organizations that are now, because I'm following a lot of organizations as a consultant and as just a friend to many organizations, and it's really increasing comparing to, as I said, to political participation. In Morocco, we have less than 1% of the youth of Morocco participating in a political party or a youth wing of political parties. And we noticed that the last elections, for instance, like we had less than 40% of Moroccans who voted were youth. So it's like people or young people tend to distrust the political life, but they orient themselves to civil society organizations, youth clubs in their universities, but like also we have an issue, because the legal framework that we are, or that's operating in Morocco is back into 1958. So it's quite very ancient statute that we need to update, because now we have more associations tend to be professionalized, if I can put it that way. We now tend to, like, associations tend to structure themselves to be as professional as possible, because back in the past, it was just like the community wants like to bring, I don't know, some change or start a particular project, like in a local community, and it's not that structured. So now organizations tend to professionalize their job. They seek to partner with international organizations to international funding. So to go that or to adopt that approach, you need to well structure your internal regulations, procedures, and and the bylaws. So now we need to have the law like being updated to respond to the needs of the new era, if I can say, of the association in Morocco, and that's might all help in increasing the level of participation in civic life of young people here in the country.
And maybe on that, what would be needed to change? What needs to change in the legal framework to encourage youth civic participation? What are the needs of this new era, according to you?
I think one of the things that might help is to like the way we create our associations is to hand over the papers to the Ministry of Interior, and that sometimes creates some delays. Sometimes there's no exact procedure. For instance, if I create an association in Marrakesh, it's not the way I will create it, for instance, in Tata, where I live, or in Agadir, or it depends on the public administrators at in the Ministry of Interior. So sometimes they ask for papers which we don't have in the law. For instance, we have a paper that stipulates your criminal record, and it's been taken off like many years now, and still in some places they request for new created associations to hand over that paper, and it's not in the law anymore. Sometimes it takes longer, like to have your final receipt, as we call it in Morocco, الوصل النهائي. In Morocco, like as soon as you hand over the assembly, the General Assembly's paper and the list of the elected members of the board, you get right away a temporary receipt. That temporary receipt give you the authority to operate, like to launch your activities, your programs. But sometimes, like to launch those activities, you need financial resources, and to have those financial resources, you have to open a bank account. When you go to the bank, they don't want to open the account for you because you don't have the final receipt. You have just the temporary receipt, and the temporary receipt in the law, it's for 60 days. After those 60 days, if you didn't get the final receipt, you are officially operational. But they don't consider that. They need that final receipt, and it's kind of complicated. So we need like a structure, a process that helps the new created or renewable when we renew our board of directors, to have this, to simplify the process. And one of the recommendations is to not have this authority to the Ministry of Interior, like for instance to the court, or I don't know, to some independent entity that can work hand in hand with the civil society organizations, and to simplify the process of giving the associations a need to establish or to work.
Thank you, Omar. And I would like to turn to Shaima, reflecting on what Omar and Issam were saying. So for Issam and Omar, for both of them, youth participation is decreasing in political life, both politically and specifically in the civically. So the civic engagement for Omar is increasing, especially due to the number of organization, to the number of, to the legal framework, but that needs also to change in terms of the legal and regulatory framework to enable to facilitate the process, and to not let the civil society be stuck in the procedures and the operations. So for you, Shaima, and you've been working on women's empowerment and women's political participation, do you think that youth in general, but women in particular, their participation is increasing or decreasing? And maybe also politically, and the political and the civic participation, do you see any difference, and what are the reasons for that?
Thank you so much, Shiraz, for the question. I definitely back up everything that Omar and Isam said, but maybe I have a slightly different perspective to touch up on youth before moving on to women. I think politically, youth participation isn't necessarily decreasing, but it's not increasing as it should. Because, I mean, in Morocco, we are still founding our views on some old data that says, for example, that youth are politically engaged to a rate close to 1.2%. Only 1% is engaged in syndicates. Only 9% are engaged in volunteering work within political organizations. However, recently in 2021, there was an Arab youth survey that was done approximately with 4,000 youngsters from 17 countries between the ages of 18 and 25, that actually confirmed that youth, Moroccan youth especially, 55% of them consider themselves politically engaged. So I believe that youth are more politically engaged today. However, it might be different for us when we define the political engagement, because usually we really split between the political and civic engagement. And I think that's probably where the confusion comes from. However, I think that really youth today are being more and more engaged in the political life as much as the civic life, but of course in the civic life much more, despite all the hardships and challenges that they face. Now, moving on to women. For women, actually, I think the situation of women, or the increasement of engagement of women, depends on three different things. Before moving to policies and so on, or the political aspect of it, I think we should also bear in mind two more important aspects, which are religion and culture. Sometimes women were excluded and are still excluded under these two big frames or delusions, which are not necessarily the reality. However, that is starting to change. So the cultural understanding and the cultural need for women's inclusion, for women's involvement, is already something that's increasing. People see that women should also be working, should be independent financially, civically, economically, and so on. So that's already something that we need to recognize its importance in women's engagement, or in favoring women's engagement in the civic or political life. Now, when it comes to the political aspect of it, I believe that there are a lot of policies actually today that favor women's participation, and we can actually prove that through the recent numbers. Sorry. In the recent election, for example, in 2021, women won 81 seats out of 395, which is representing over 20% of the total seats. Yes, we need to recognize that within these 80 seats, we already have 30 of them, which are representative by which represent the national women's list, which is now turned regional. But still, even if that list ensures that we have at least 30 women, we still need to recognize that 50 more women were voted upon or were chosen to be part of the parliament and represent women's cases. The second thing is that in the recent elections, in the recent local elections, we have more than 16% of women that won seats to be represented. At the same time, when we talk about the civic life in general, 47% of civil society organizations in Morocco are women, either members or members of the boards, and so on. The other thing is that we have over 6,000 women's association in Morocco with 400,000 members, women and men alike, which means that out of the 210,000, we have 6,000. It's not much, but still, it's very representative. So I think that these numbers really attest of the importance of women's engagement, the importance that women are really playing in the increase of political and civics engagement. But I think we still have a long run to go. We still have a lot to do, because I think we still have a lot of problems, even though the Constitution recognizes equality of genders or gender equality. We still have the cultural mindset that we need to bear in mind, the religious barriers that sometimes are being put, even though they don't really religiously exist in any sort of way. I hope that answers your question. I'll be happy to tell you more.
Actually, I'm interested in terms of women's participation, in terms of women participation in policy, in shaping policy, so that policies reflect women needs and specific demands. So do you think that the role of all these, the huge number of women-led civil society are working and is there any successful examples on how they successfully led to the change of a policy that have an impact on the women's social, economic, cultural rights?
Maybe Omar and Isam can touch up on that, but my personal answer would be, maybe we need to touch on not just women influence in policies, but civil society organizations' influence in policies in general. And for me, honestly, I think that civil society organizations haven't yet successfully influenced policies because of the barriers that are being put by the laws that we have in place. For example, if we want to pass un plaidoyer,
advocacy,
advocacy petition, we need over 25,000 signatures with copies of IDs of people that are registered to vote in the elections lists, which is literally sometimes, I would say up until now, impossible to have. So we have a lot of laws that make it actually impossible still for civil society organizations to influence policies in any way. Thankfully, we have initiatives like the OGP that Isam mentioned that actually push a bit the agenda forward, and through which, for example, civil society organizations have successfully been able to pass a volunteering contractual law in 2020. However, if we want to really say, do women influence policy specifically, I would say that they try to internally in their civil society organizations, but on a higher level, it's still very complicated and still very difficult. However, I need to say that recently with the new government and having 7 women as ministers is still a huge advancement, and maybe in that sense, we can hope that women's voices, women's concerns are going to be taken into consideration in the new laws passed. But on the practical level, I think we're still far from acknowledging or declining the fact that women can contribute or are contributing in influence in any kind of policies so far.
Great, Shaima. I would like to come back to Omar, staying on the political participation, maybe because Omar, you worked on the political participation of youth with disabilities. So I'm interested to know what is the place of youth with specific needs, with disabilities in the society. Are there mechanisms? Are there measures that will encourage them to enter the civic scene, both civil society and politics?
Thank you, Shiraz. We are working now on a program called Cities Lab. It's a program that aims to promote civic political participation among youth, women, and people with disabilities. And the objective is to create what we call consultative spaces or civil society consultative spaces at the local level because the theory of change that we frame as is if we want to raise the political participation, we need to start at the local level. At the local level, we have people are very close to the development, are close to their elected officials, are close to their city councils. So if we want people to participate, we need to start at the bottom. So it's a bottom-up approach. The objective is to train young people, women and people with disabilities, like to be engaged in the local public policies, shaping local public policies. We targeted 23 communes in 23 cities, and today we can say that we created a huge impact that we didn't expect at the beginning of the program. It's a very little number of communes, because in Morocco we have 1,503 communes and we are just working on 23. But it's just a way, and we call the program Citizen Lab. It's just a laboratory. We test things, and to say if they are working, maybe we can duplicate or adapt them in other contexts. So yes, we did our own research study before implementing the program, and we found out that most of people don't know anything about the mechanisms of the local affairs. They don't know, they just know there is the municipality and they're supposed to do everything. They don't know the roles, what the commune can do and cannot do. What if I need, for instance, a hospital, where I should go? Is it to the municipality, or to the ministry, or to the I don't know, Ministry of Health, or Ministry of Education, or I don't. So we need people to know exactly where they need to go when they need something. So it's a capacity building. So we worked on building their capacities. So we touched in our program, we touched more than 1,900 people, where we have more than 45% of them are young people. We have 94.1 women. So it's quite interesting number that we want to change mentalities, to change mindsets. So we started by building their capacity. So they need to know the concepts, the tools, the legal framework of public policy participation in the country, what the municipality can do and why cannot do. We provide them with tools of monitoring and evaluating local public policies, training.
Thank you, Omar.
Yeah. So
thank you, because actually, yes, on the people, youth with disability, because I will actually talk more about youth participation at the local level and to what degree it is different from the national level. So maybe a last word on youth with disabilities, existing mechanisms to participate in public life.
Yes, we have a body in every local city council. They need to establish a committee. It's called a Committee of Equity, Equality, and Gender Approach. So that particular committee needs to monitor and to provide consultative opinions to the city council regarding the youth, women, and people with disabilities. And in that regard, we worked on several petitions and consultative opinions that strengthening the participation of people with disabilities at the local level. And one of the criteria that we put to create the civil society consultative space is at least to have 5%, because in Morocco the percentage of people with disabilities is 5.1. So we need to at least have that percentage in the civil society consultative space.
Right.
Also, they need to work on a petition, motion, or consultative opinion about the policies regarding, or policies or people with disability related local policies. So this is what we offer, or what we advocate for in the program.
Thank you. And I will get back to that point in the second round of question. I'll go back to Issam, who I'm very interested, also based on experience, to have your view and analysis on women's participation in political life, specifically, and the public life in general. And yeah, based on the different experience that you have in that regard, and then we'll move to the second round. Please, Issam, go ahead.
Thank you, Shiraz. I just want to build up on what Shaima said earlier. There are like different dimensions of engaging youth and women in the public life and the political life in Morocco. And what I'm going to say, to highlight, is that I personally believe that youth and women play a very important and crucial role in catalyzing the transformative development of their societies and their respected communities. And this actually can only happen if youth and women are engaged and more included in the policy making processes. I mean, in the political life as well, and the civic life. And this can be shown actually in the youth policies in Morocco as well as in the MENA region as well. It suffers from lack of visionary strategies and lack of coordinated youth and women policies, and this actually impacts the results and the outcomes of the youth policy, the policies. Actually, my answer to your question is built up on the fact that governmental officials and the public officials should put on a kind of a youth lens when it comes to making policies, and when they have to include them, they have to prepare them for the role of, they have to set them, to give them a place on the table. Someone once said that if you are doing something for me without including me, you are doing it against me. Actually, and this I think you are all aware of that story where an organization came to a community. I think it's in the South, Omar. Correct me if I'm wrong. There is this organization, they came to a community and they found that they have water scarcity problem, and they dug a well for them, and they brought all the expensive materials and equipments and the faucets and everything. After 1 month or two, they came back for their own monitoring for their project to find out that all the equipment and the faucets are destroyed. So they run their own investigation to find out the reality that the women and the youth are responsible to destroy those faucets and those equipments. Why? Because the time where they have to walk to bring drinkable water for their house is the only me time that they have to talk and to talk about their problems, and the only time they have to go out and I mean, discuss their own concerns and their problems. So when the drinkable water is in the community, they no longer go out, they just bored, they don't have the right to go there. So the only solution that they found is to destroy the equipment and the faucets, so that they go back to their real situation, which is going for 2 hours and I don't know, to bring drinkable water. The moral of the story is that if they have included them, they would know the real problem and the real solution for their problems. So what I'm saying is that if you are doing something for the youth or the female or the women in your country, you have to include them and give them a place on the table.
Great. Thank you very much, because actually you talked about inclusion. And in the second round of question, I will try to go a little bit deeper in the understanding of inclusion. Already Omar talked about the local level. So I'd like to talk about the difference between the national and local level and its impact on youth participation. After 2011, Morocco has consolidated its decentralization process within the framework of what we call la régionalisation avancée, or advanced regionalization, which also led to the creation of many mechanisms at the local level. And we already talked about this, but do you think, first of all, this is a question to all of you, and try to tackle it also from different angles, that there is a difference in terms of impact of social on youth participation if we compare the national and the local level? There is a lot of research that demonstrate that at the local level, youth have more mechanisms to participate. But then here also my question, first of all, do you agree with that the local level gives more space and opportunity for youth and for civil society to be more engaged, civic and political engagement, but also is participation enough? If we say that there are mechanisms and people are participating, is this enough for them to influence public policies, to shape politics, and to shape public life and at the local or at the national level? I will start with Shaima, and maybe also reflect on women, but also answer in general, but maybe also focus a little bit on women.
I think that's definitely the most logical way to look at it, because on the local level, you understand definitely the hardships and challenges that your community has. So you are more able to contribute, you are more able to co-conceptualize with different stakeholders that you are already in contact with, potential solutions, potential projects that can answer the different needs of the community that you already know, that you already interact with. So I believe that definitely, I mean, youth engagement on the local level is definitely present more than on the national level. One, because youth know the communities, they're part of them, and they know what are exactly the needs that they can answer. That's number one. The second thing, and I think it's the same for youth and women and men, whatever kind of stakeholders that we can tackle on the local level. The second thing is, yes, as you said, it is easier to be involved on the local level than on the national level, be it because of the laws, be it because of the restrictions of laws, of policies, the difficulty of access to information regarding how to do advocacy, where to do it exactly, how to proceed, which is definitely still a problem up until now. At the same time, I think it's also because of the lack of funding to sustain national engagement. It's definitely something that is very financially, financially expensive for civil society organizations or youth in general to be involved on a national level through a national organization than to be involved locally. And because we have I wouldn't say so little funding, but little funding compared to the number of our civil society organizations that we have nationally, it's definitely difficult for civil society organizations to be involved, I mean, beyond the local level or even the regional level at most. And I think these are some of the reasons that justify the fact that definitely on the regional or local level, there is more involvement from youth and women. But I think if we do take into consideration the facilitation of laws, if we do ease up the policies, youth can be more engaged nationally, and then maybe they can influence and shape public policies. But I think on the local level, that's already happening, because we, as Omar said, we have an equality and youth, how do we call it in English, body as part of communal provinces that actually also contributes in shaping the agendas of smaller communities on the local level, which means that they are already influencing public policies on the local level, and they are already part of the process, being with it when it comes to budgeting, when it comes to what would be the priorities, when it comes to what should we tackle as a region or as a specific province. So I think they are already influencing on the local level, but on the national level, we are still missing a lot of easement or easing in terms of policies to be able to really do that.
I'll turn to Omar and taking up from where you left, Shaima, because you said that local participation of youth is very important. I would like you, Omar, to reflect on that a little bit. Do you think that the fact, first of all, if you agree with Shaima that youth participation in public life is more is more than the participation in the national level, do you think that this is problematic, or do you think that the local level is a gateway to the national level, or that the local level is limiting youth capacity to influence national policies?
Yes, definitely. For instance, like if we have this law of motions that people can, that the citizens can submit to the head of the government or to the parliament, and it, as Seema said before, you need more than, you need 25,000 people registered. They can vote. So people who cannot vote, who are not registered in the national list of voters, cannot count on this. So you need people who are registered, like, to sign the petition. Like, you need them, like, to hand you their ID copies, and it's legalized. It's quite a hard process, like, to participate at the national level. But at the local level, it's kind of easy. So, for instance, like one single association can submit a petition to the local council. It's very easy. They just need to have that objectives in their bylaws. Like for instance, if an organization or association is working on people with disability issues or environment issues, and they submit a petition on that theme or that topic, it's very simple and it's very easy. Like the city council must adopt, or at least include it in the agenda of their reunions, and they can vote on it. And if they cannot accept it, they need to say why. So they need to respond to the applicants why they didn't adopt or accept the petition. So it's very easy at the local level. Also at the local level, we know the city council members, because they are from our town, our neighborhood or city. We know them, but we don't know people at the national level. Sometimes in a city, maybe during the parliamentary elections, maybe there is a list, and it has a lot of people who are not the people of that town, like they just moved in, like, in the last 2 years, because this is the law, and they are nominating themselves to the parliament, and people don't trust people who they don't know. But at the local level, I said, it's maybe it's a family member, or is a friend, or is a friend of a friend. And people tend to vote at the local level rather than the national level. Also, we have some institutions, national institutions, which we have in the constitution, but still they don't exist. For instance, the National Council, the National Advisory Council of Youth, it still don't exist. We don't have the law. We don't know who is how the members of the council are being elected, who will elect them, the mandates, the obligations, and all those things. We also have the local level, we have mechanisms or public consultation mechanisms that the elected councils need to create, but they only create one which is obligatory, because for the city council, their action plan to be adopted, they need an opinion of the Committee of Equity, and Gender Approach. If there is none, they will not. Their action plan, it will not be accepted by the authorities, by the governor, in case of the local communes and the provincial communes, and the wali at the regional level. So they are obliged to establish the equality and gender approach. But the other mechanisms, they see themselves, they are not obliged to do so, except those people who are coming from the civil society spectrum. When they've been elected, they have this mindset. They want to be open to the civil society. They need to promote public consultation. They are open to sit down with the civil society organizations. Here we see this kind of importance of the local participation rather than the national. We have also, like for the question of women, now we have this rule that for the regional list of candidates, it has to be half, like 50-50, men and women. And also we have a list just for women at the regional level, to increase the participation or the percentage of women in the parliament.
In the participation.
But we see we see quite good number of women in the parliament, but when we go to the government, it's less than what we expect, and it's very little percentage of women in the government. So if we are advocating for raising the women participation at the local level, why we don't do it at the level of the government? So if we have this will, we need to see it in all the governmental level, like at the local and at also the national level.
Thank you, Omar.
Actually, I would like we still have the quota as well, Omar. The women quota.
For women. Yeah.
For women, yes. Before moving to Isam, just maybe if you can answer very quickly on youth with disability. You talked earlier, and I want to make sure that I understood correctly, that the legal framework encourages youth with disability to participate at the local level, if I understood correctly. I want to know and here I want to tackle the difference between participation and active participation. So my question here is, to what degree the state institution to these persons who have specific needs, to what degree it enables them to go through the documents, to access the offices that can be in a first, second floor, or other things that can hinder their active participation. So is this something that exists, like this accessibility to youth with disability, and what's your role as civil society working on youth with disabilities political participation? Omar?
It's a question to me.
Yes.
I thought it's for Isam.
I'll actually go to Isam as well. So
yeah,
if you can, very quickly.
Yeah, one of the major issues that we still have in the country is our view or our perspective regarding the people with disabilities. We still see this category as people that can hold us back, people who don't know much. And I'm saying that not like from what I hear from the ground when we meet people. And one of the major issue also is the accessibilities. Like people, for instance, in our program, we have, like in many communes, we have many participants, people with disabilities participants, and they come to the workshops, they come to the events, but the places that the commune offers or put in place don't have like accessibilities, like for people to get in there and to participate, and that's create like a bad impression on them. So they think that they are not taken into consideration. Also, like I'm speaking here about the like physical disability, but people like, for instance, who cannot like who have audible disability or other disabilities. This is another issue. We don't have scripts written in Braille language, for instance, for people who couldn't see. We don't have like audible scripts for people who cannot see also. So it's quite difficult for people with disabilities if we don't have a political will, because this is something related to the political will. Does the government, does the state, does the local government wants to give a bigger space to people with disabilities? It's like, at least in these 23 communes that we are working in, none of them have a representative or people with disability, person with disability in the city council. So this shows how we see this category, how we want them to be engaged. So if we want them to be engaged, we need to, as we found a legal or approach to include women or youth in, for instance, we can have like laws that states, for instance, if in your list, for instance, to the parliament, you need to have, I don't know, a percentage for people or at the list of the people who are being elected, like
Thank you, Omar.
Yeah, so this kind of things we need to see them and it's related to the political will, as I said before.
Moving to Issam. So Issam, do you agree with Shaima and Omar that the political and civic engagement and participation of youth is more at the local level? What are for you, because you talked earlier a lot about inclusion and the importance of inclusion. So do you think that the mechanism, the tools, the space that is present at the local level enables this inclusion? Because I also want to know, what is inclusion for you? Is information and communication and participation inclusion, or there is another level that needs to be done to enable, also going back to what I told Omar, active participation, not just participation for youth?
Yeah, before answering that, I just want to comment on what Omar said concerning the
Sure.
PRM, and I mean the persons with reduced mobility. I mean, again, if we are talking about an effective inclusion and I mean a good governance and including everyone, I mean, we have to prepare these accessibilities and include everyone. I mean, the PRMs, LGBTQs, I mean, people with all kinds of orientations and backgrounds. And I again, related to your question, I totally agree with Omar and Shaima that the local participation is easier for I mean, personally for me, since, and I'm going to relate it with the building trust. Once you are you build a good reputation in your community, people, elected officials, the government institutions, everyone make it easier for you to advocate, to work, to impact your community. But why? Because they got to know you. But again, we shouldn't just like stay there and say, yeah, this is your comfort zone, everyone is making it easier for you, so you stick to your community and stuff. It should be a stepping stone, and it should be a door for you to expand your horizon and learn up, and for other opportunities on both on national or why not international level. And in IFCD Foundation, I think we have a symbol of this. I mean, one of the founding members of the IFCD Foundation back there in 2007, he started as elected official in Aiture community. Now he is in the parliament. He has a presence in the parliament, in the Moroccan parliamentary. Of course, he chose his own political affiliation, but we always say that in IFCD Foundation, he is a kind of young man who started locally, and now he is acting on the national level.
Thank you. So for you, the local level should be a gateway to the national level, so that youth can influence both local and national public policies. I would like to go to the questions from the audience before also giving you the floor to think about the future and maybe what can be done as civil society to make sure that youth are more active in the civic and political life. I'll turn to Shaima. There is a question here, and you can also answer it and give your prospects for the future. So could you give an example of policies that promote and support women's participation in Morocco?
I'm so sorry, but I also got so excited I answered another question in the chat. So yeah, regarding women favoring women's participation or women policy participation, especially politically, we have a few, some of which that I already mentioned: the quota for women's representation in parliament, with the women's list of 30 seats, to ensure a minimum of 30 women being represented in parliament. The second one, which actually was established in the recent elections in 2021, was that they tried to ensure gender parity in candidate lists, be it for the parliamentary or the local elections. So there needed to be as much women as men. The other thing is that we have created recently a national strategy for gender equality. One of the most important parts of it, one of the most ambitious goals of it, are to achieve gender parity in political representations by 2030. Women have also land rights in owning land since 2019. And of course, we have also a lot of supports that is being provided for women entrepreneurs through different programs of funding, women support program in 2019, but other funds. I'm sorry, I'm a bit in a space with a lot of screaming going around. But yeah. So these are some of the measures that have already been established, but the results of them are still to be seen. We of course have already positive results when it comes to women's political participation, but we're definitely way further than reaching gender parity or gender equality.
I'm also interested in Omar's response to the same question. What can be the role of civil society in promoting women's participation and also in promoting gender sensitive policies?
It's quite an interesting question, and one of the things that I relate to what Shima said is yes, we have this obligation to have a parity in the candidates list, but what we find is the head of the list is always men. So if you want the like to give more role to women and more women engagement and the representation is like to I don't know how, but to convince the political parties to nominate women at their lists, candidates lists during the elections. Also, maybe we can also increase, because Morocco is a very conservative country. We need to adopt some measures that can help women to be elected. For instance, yes, we have this quota that Isam mentioned before, but we need to increase it. Why not? We also need to stipulate or to create or to add something at the law that obliges political parties to give more opportunities to women, because as I said, we have this measure of having the list 50-50 in the list, but the top of the list is always men. So more opportunities are given to men, and that's not working at the moment, and we need to have a collective thinking about this issue, and it needs, as I said, it needs political will from every or all the stakeholders.
Thank you. I'll have to move very quickly to Isam. And a final question for you, based on the question that we got from our audience, which is in relation to policy engagement. So there is the civic and political engagement, but there is this policy engagement. So how can the state or other actors make sure that youth are more active and are more involved in influencing public policies and also in shaping public policies?
Well, I think we've been talking, me, Umar, Shema, as civil society activists, we've been talking from a desire level, but actually I would go a little bit further and say that actually it's about it's shared responsibility. Actually, it goes both ways. I mean, if we are expecting from the public, from the elected officials of the governmental institutions to include youth or women, where are these youth? Where are these women? What, I mean, what kind of youth are we engaging? What kind of women are we engaging? I mean, are they aware of their rights and their obligations to that they need to be good citizens, and they are, I mean, if you are talking about citizenship, I mean, you have to put yourself in a position where you go to that institutions and ask for your right and ask to be engaged and ask to be involved in all the policies that are concerns you. So as I said, it's a shared responsibility. And I mean, civil society activists, it's a role of a civil society organizations that prepare both women and youth for that role, for governing role, to engage them more.
Thank you, Isam. I think we need another session to discuss citizenship and what it means. So we'll leave it there at the moment, as the webinar is coming to an end. I'm sure we have many more points to discuss, so hopefully we have that in future conversation. But I want to thank you, Omar, Shayma, and Isam, for your valuable insights and contribution. I would like to thank the team of NAPI and MEI who have worked on the preparation of this event. And I would like to thank our audience for their participation, interaction, and comments. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Shiraz. As you said, we might need another session because a lot of questions just like keep popping up in the Q&A session.
Thank you, Shiraz. Thank